When you come to America, you're a guest, and you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can to keep things clean in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics, or whatever it is. Make this country a better.
What happens when one of America's most iconic immigrants tells the self-proclaimed immigration warrior to look in his own backyard? Arnold Schwarzenegger's unexpected one-sentence mic drop left Trump speechless, Melania frozen, and the world buzzing. But why did that statement cut so deep? Let's break down the moment that shook the political landscape and exposed a glaring hypocrisy. Before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Why would Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator himself, fire shots at Donald Trump over immigration? On the surface, it might seem like a strange matchup, a Hollywood action star turned governor versus the flashy real estate mogul turned president.
I just think the world of the great kind of a history that we have with immigrants in America. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. The important thing is when you become an immigrant, to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has. That is the important thing, you know. So you got to do things legal, and those people that are doing illegal things in America and that are foreigners, they are not smart.
But this wasn't just some random political jab. It was personal, sharp, and took direct aim at what Trump has long considered his strong suit, being the tough guy on immigration. And when it comes from someone like Schwarzenegger, a man who embodies the so-called American dream, that hit lands a little harder, doesn't it? Let's start with Arnold. Here's a guy who came to the US with a thick Austrian accent and a dream. Even when people told him his accent was too ridiculous for movie stardom, he pushed on. They said his long, unpronounceable last name would be box office poison. Well, Terminator, Predator, Conan, the box office seemed just fine.
As an immigrant to this country, I would like to say a few words to my fellow Americans. President Trump sought to overturn the results of an election, and of a fair election. President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever. The good thing is that he soon will be as irrelevant as an old tweet. Very aware of Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass. It was a night of rampage against the Jews carried out in 1938 by the Nazi equivalent of the Proud Boys.
Now think about his leap into politics. An immigrant stepping into the governor's office of California, a state bigger than most countries. That is a serious resume. Schwarzenegger lived the kind of story every politician loves to romanticize. The outsider who comes here, works hard, and makes it big. Who wouldn't want to slap that on a campaign poster? Now put that side by side with Trump, a man who says immigrants are a threat to the country. He's the guy branding himself as the warrior against the so-called wave of bad hombres. He spent his 2016 campaign boasting about giant border walls and strict deportation rules to keep the country American. But oh, how quiet he got whenever Melania's immigration tale came up. You know, Melania Trump, the First Lady, she didn't exactly waltz through Ellis Island in a headscarf, hugging a bundle of dreams and a toddler in tow. No, her route was, let's call it a little more elite. You've probably heard the term genius visa. It sounds fancy, like something reserved for Nobel Prize winners and NASA scientists. But surprise, that's the visa Melania used in 2001 to secure her path to US residency. And let's be honest, supermodel to genius is one heck of a leap. She was allegedly granted the visa under the extraordinary ability category, which is meant for people with a demonstrated record of extraordinary achievement. Sure, she was on some magazine covers, but was that on par with, say, pioneering cancer research? It's an interesting twist for someone like Trump, who sold himself as the face of America First. Apparently, America First includes a loophole for Slovenian supermodels, and here's where it gets even stickier. Trump's anti-immigrant policies were not only harsh, but laser-focused on family reunifications. The process that allows spouses, kids, or even elderly parents to move to the US legally, he branded it chain migration. Trump raged against this by calling it a disaster for the country, saying it let people bring in their families by the dozens. Guess who benefited from it? Melania. Right after she became a citizen, she reportedly sponsored her parents, Victor and Amalia Knavs.
You famously said that the Republican Party has a problem at the box office. I heard you equate the GOP with the Titanic. Explain.
The reason why I said it was because their policies were such that they were not really including everybody. And we were losing them because we were not addressing those issues. So I was telling them, I said, look, the way you're going, by being so healthcare reform and being so anti-environment and stuff like this, we are losing and we are dying at the box office.
For U.S. residencies through, you guessed it, chain migration. The very thing Trump spent years demonizing. This makes Schwarzenegger's attack that much more brutal. Not only does he have the immigrant background to challenge Trump's rhetoric, but his story also makes Trump's fear-mongering look like a joke. Schwarzenegger didn't sneak across borders or exploit a modeling contract. He came here, stayed legally, became a citizen, and then transformed his success into public service. By contrast, Trump is pointing fingers at every immigrant while benefiting from the same system he paints as broken. That's textbook hypocrisy on a silver platter. The tension between these two isn't just political. Arnold isn't some left-wing celebrity hurling attack lines from the sidelines. No, he's a Republican. They're technically playing for the same team. Yet Schwarzenegger has openly criticized Trump before, whether it's about the former president's climate change ignorance or his conduct in office. But none of those previous critiques had the sting of this one. This wasn't about corrupt deals or policy debates. This went straight after Trump's ego and the very foundation of his political identity. Schwarzenegger's credibility is what makes this takedown so hard to ignore. Imagine being Trump, already under fire for hypocrisy from left and right, and then getting called out by this guy, a fellow Republican, former politician, and, let's not forget, a much bigger star. It's a triple threat. Schwarzenegger doesn't just have the immigrant perspective, he's lived it. He came here, succeeded by the rules, and now he's calling out the man who bent those same rules to his advantage. But the real cherry on top was how Schwarzenegger said it. No raised voice, no wild insult, no need for a boxing match-style speech. Calm and calculated, like lining up the perfect weight for a deadlift. This is the man who once said, "I'll be back." Except this time, Trump probably wished he wasn't. And it all came down to one moment on live TV. A moment we'll break down in just a second. This is where Schwarzenegger said the line that left Trump, Melania, and pretty much the entire world reeling. What does it take to leave Donald Trump, the self-proclaimed king of comebacks, at a complete loss for words? Not a fiery debate, not a drawn-out argument, just one sentence, delivered with pinpoint accuracy. That's what Arnold Schwarzenegger achieved on live TV with a statement so sharp and so unexpected, it left everyone in the room stunned. Calmly, and without even a hint of hesitation, Schwarzenegger looked straight into the camera and said the line people would go on replaying for months. "You ought to deport your own wife." The fallout from this moment wasn't just an internet moment. It reignited some serious debates. Suddenly, the questions Trump had avoided for years were front and center. Why did Melania qualify for such an exclusive visa category? How could the guy crusading against chain migration justify bringing over relatives through it? Yet the bigger picture went beyond paperwork. Schwarzenegger's words pierced the heart of Trump's carefully crafted image, the idea that he's the ultimate patriot defending the country and its laws. When that image crumbles, his entire persona takes a hit. After all, it's hard to play the sheriff when people are wondering if you're the one bending the rules behind the scenes. Arnold's decision to use such a simple phrase, rather than grandstanding, was the ultimate flex. It showed the difference between brute force and precision. And as the aftermath intensified, it was clear that this was no throwaway comment. It was a calculated strike, one that didn't just silence Trump but flipped the narrative about his policies. And what happened after? That's where the plot thickens, as this one-shot critique had ripples not just in social media timelines, but in actual political discourse. And trust me, the reactions only got messier from there. Sometimes the most brutal takedowns don't require yelling, they just need to expose the truth. One sentence from Schwarzenegger didn't just point out Trump's hypocrisy, it forced a shift in the narrative itself. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't about Trump's bravado or slogans. It was about how long his contradictions had gone unchecked. And when a Republican star holds up that mirror, the cracks in Trump's image become impossible to ignore. So what's the real lesson here? It's not about shouting louder, it's about precision. Even the loudest, biggest figures can be brought down when the truth lands exactly where it hurts.